power behind the throne is kept by any means necessary. I don't think he was interested in the throne. I think he was interested in power and controlling those two. I don't think he thought they were qualified. I don't think he thinks anyone is better or greater or smarter than him, and I love that. First of all, he's a wonderful young man. And one of the things he brings is that he's a consummate professional. He's obviously very talented, very humble, and the sky's the limit for him. I mean, it was almost a bit of a proud father kind of thing for me, you know, just watching him do his thing. And he was saying to me today how he had to keep a straight face and, you know, and all of that. And he's just a wonderful actor, a wonderful human being, and quite talented. And like I said, the sky's the limit for him. Credit to Ridley. He really put a wonderful cast together. He painted the canvas. There's all types of people and talents. And it seemed like the whole was bigger than any of us individuals. There's a size and a scope that the landscape itself brings, that Malta brings, and Malta is a character in our film. It's beautiful. It's the greenest green I've ever seen. I don't know what they put in the soil, but it's just a beautiful place, beautiful people. Ridley's a genius, and he's a visionary. I mean, what he sees and how he puts it together, and his team, you know, I don't have to think or worry about anything. Just put the gear on and do my part. I think this is the biggest film I've been on. It's big. It's huge. It's, you know, Cecil B. DeMille on steroids. It's you know, it's huge. You know, he's not going to have 100 guys. He's going to have 1,000 of them. You know, he's not going to have 20 horses. He's going to have 20 scores of. It's just, it makes the job easy. Everywhere you turn, you feel like you're in that world. It was all a spectacle. Just the size of the damn Coliseum. I was like, they built the Coliseum. Malta is a character. The way the stone walls, and you can just get in the character riding to work. You can feel the history here, and it was the perfect place to shoot. And I'm glad that I came here, and the people are even more beautiful than the island itself. People say, what do you want people to get from a film? I say, it depends upon what they bring to it. In this case, don't overthink it. Don't bring anything. Bring some popcorn and whatever your favorite beverage is, and just enjoy. It's a ride, it's a spectacle, it's on a grand scale. It's I don't want to say movies aren't made like this anymore, I don't know, but just riding past what look like thousands of soldiers and the beautiful costumes and the colors and the swords and the shields and the horses and just all of it. It's more than a movie for me.
My name is Paul Mescal. I play Lucius in Gladiator II. The first Gladiator obviously holds a huge amount of weight for not just myself, but like a huge amount of people across the world. So it's not lost on me what we as a cast of actors and Ridley are stepping into. Ridley Scott's the king of cinema, and especially this genre. He's so beloved. I mean, it's a total pinch yourself moment. If Ridley comes knocking, you just say yes. And to have worked as closely with him on this is one of those, definitely changed my life. One, it's definitely been a career highlight for me, just to kind of see the way a master's brain works. He was incredibly generous with me and his talent and sharing his knowledge with me, and just an absolutely mad experience. Lucius is the son of Lucilla. We meet him at the start of the film in Numidia, which is in present-day terms is North Africa. And the film kind of opens with an invasion of the Roman army into Numidia. That sequence is absolutely insane. We kind of see him dragged back into Rome. He has a intense dislike and anger towards what Rome in that context represents. And that's kind of that's where we meet him at the start of the film. All of the things that we see in the film in terms of like flooding the Colosseum, wild animals. All of those things, when I first read the script, I was like, this feels fictitious. And then reading up about it, it's like all of these things happened. It was like the greatest show on earth. The production values and what the Roman emperors put into these things, because they weren't just games, they were these celebrations and they were these offerings to the gods. But all of the things that you see in the film, it's recorded that it happened. Pedro's one of my good friends now, and what you see is what you get with him. He's got an amazing capacity of retaining the version of the human being that he is behind closed doors with the world, and I think that's a particular skill that I'm envious of in the way that he conducts himself. He's hilarious. He's an incredibly talented actor, and as a fan of his work, I'm just really excited for people to see what he does in this film. Yeah, it's quite extraordinary. This was a different approach for me than any of the other roles that I've played previously. There was a big focus on the physical preparation for this. But there's something interesting in this film where the story is actually very simple. It follows a template of kind of a hero versus villain's story and arc and how they come into conflict. But what's interesting about this is that the characters are very complicated, and within a simple story, their kind of complexities are allowed to develop at a pace that I think is satisfying for an audience. So for me, the psychology of Lucius was very clear from the first time that I read it. But the big preparation for me was kind of scale of performance. And I think having Ridley at the center of it, whose only interest is the talent for which with he hired us as actors. That's what he wants. And you've got to kind of remove your ego and leave it at the door and kind of just step in. Connie Nielsen's like a wonderful human being. She plays my mother in the film. She's got a kind of wonderful dexterity with films of this scale, like knows her way around them in a way that I thought was really interesting to watch her work. She is the emotional heartbeat of the film. She's the person who has the most information for the characters' lives in the film, and I just think it's a wonderfully elegant performance. Denzel's one of the greatest actors to ever walk planet Earth. His performance in this is like so unbelievably colorful. Him and Ridley together working on something with the amount of films that they've shot. But the thing that I keep being struck by is how you read certain scenes that he played and you look at them on the page, and then what he delivers on the day is so unbelievably playful and colorful and dynamic. And again, it ties back to the fact that he's just been there and done that, and knows how to navigate character in a way that if I could, I mean this sincerely, if I could scratch the surface of that in 20 years' time, I'd be incredibly lucky and grateful. The kind of neuroses that with which Joe plays his emperor is incredibly interesting when you balance that with Fred's kind of true madness. Like Fred's like actually more mentally unwell, and Joe's more neurotic, and I think it's a really clever choice that they both made. And I think we're definitely the three of us in particular are pinching ourselves in terms of having access to the actors that we have around us in terms of experience, and then King Ridley at the top just calling the shots. It's like something that isn't lost on us. Maximus is such an unbelievably iconic character, and I think when you see Lucius throughout the start of the film and you don't have this information yet, that the minute that reveal is made, it suddenly makes sense that this character in Lucius is a born survivor because of who his father is. It's in his blood. What are the things that we inherit from our parents? And this film just dials it up to 100 in the fact that Maximus is just a born survivor, and that's probably one of the main questions that an audience will have for Lucius is like, how does he manage to survive this level of violence? And I think it's because of who his father is. There was a moment stepping out in kind of gladiator armor where I was like, okay, whoa, this looks like it's going to happen. That's a harder thing to do when you're aware of the legacy when you're stepping into it. That's obviously a heightened moment. When you're stepping into the armor and you're in front of a mirror, you're like, okay, this is the template of what I have to fill. But weirdly seeing the armor and seeing what that outline was, I was like, I've got to fill this now, and that's the job. You're looking at like Arthur Max, John T. Yates, Dave Grossman, Iana and Giuliano. Like, you're dealing with department heads here who are at the top of their game and who've worked with Ridley kind of religiously through the years. Having seen the film, you really see the detail of those department heads, and it's mastery. Like, you look at what they've all done in their individualized kind of disciplines, and it's like, it's top end production design, hair and makeup, costume design. Like, just profoundly lucky to work with people of that talent. That was my first taste of a Ridley film. First day on set, we were kind of kept in these holding tents, and Ridley comes out, cigar in hand, pats me on the back and goes, "Your nerves are no good to me." And it was an amazing piece of advice, and one of actually immense care, where he was like, I get that this is huge, but I've hired you to do your job and I trust you to do it. So leave all that, things that is ultimately like ego related, leave it in the tent and come out and do your job. And that was like, he gave me permission to feel like I was able to step into it. And Morocco was kind of a blur. It's a big, huge action sequence at the top of the film that I think is definitely one of the best that Ridley's ever put to film, but also I think it stands up there with kind of any kind of period battle scene that I've ever seen, certainly. The scale is huge. The kind of buzz of the film is huge. But if you boil it down, the story is simple and the characters are complicated. And I think it gives an audience a real opportunity to invest. Ultimately, what you want to see is how these complicated characters are navigating this. To my mind, it's a simple story, and one that's very relevant in today's day and age.
Hi, my name is Connie Nielsen. I play Lucilla, daughter of Marcus Aurelius in Gladiator II. I could not believe this story they came up with. It was so brilliant, and I just thought, that is a fantastic situation for me as a character to be in. And it's also something that, once again, really, really speaks to a kind of deep human experience. In my case, motherhood, and again, sacrifice. And this extraordinary thing of having to sacrifice something that is the most important thing in your life. And I just felt that that was such a compelling story to be a part of and to play. She has a love in her life that she never expected to feel. Acacius, a former comrade of Maximus, has not only become her champion, but is the leading general, leader of the army in this quest to continue to expand the empire. Lucilla is living this nightmare where she does not know if her child is still alive. And she just, like any mother would, just yearns for that one thing that she loves more than anything else in the whole world. But she has had, out of duty, she's had to choose to let go of him so that she could stay behind and try to fight to save Rome, instead of following her heart and going with her child to keep him safe. To Lucilla, power is something that you can only use in the name of the people, and only if the people has given that action legitimacy. But to Macrinus, power is something to do with his own ego. It has something to do with how to feel powerful over everyone, and something that therefore is consumed only by him and not in the name of the collective. I remember the first time I saw Paul's work, and I was just so blown away with his performance. So I was excited to see what he would bring to this troubled kid, to Lucius, who is a troubled young man who now has to figure out how to step up, step out of your rage and step into your duty, into your future. How will you do that? And so I knew this was going to be amazing. Pedro Pascal plays Acacius, and I, along with the rest of the world, am of course completely bowled over by how cool, how gorgeous and funny and kind that this man is. Like, just superb. And it was just a very natural fit when we started playing domestic scenes of joy and comfort. And I think just he's an incredible Acacius. Getting back, working with Ridley, experiencing how Ridley, has at this point even more technology at his fingertips than he had 24 years ago. And I've always admired how Ridley uses these very classical storytelling devices and at the same time really incorporates whatever technology is available to us right then, right there. And obviously technology has really evolved a lot in filmmaking, and he is right up to speed. He has just, if anything, amped up the spectacle even more. And he just has an extraordinary team, as always, with him. I am just loving being here. I feel such gratitude to have, this option, this opportunity to continue to tell these big stories. These stories that can both touch people's hearts and make them and their experiences feel seen, and then at the same time to entertain people and for a moment give them something else to think about. And to be able to, in this day and age, create films at this scale is, I don't know, I feel so blessed.
The movie starts with the Roman Empire led by General Acacius, whom I play, invading Numidia, which is northern Africa, where our lead, played by Mescal, is hiding out. And it's just a perfect way to start the movie. And in my eyes, an incredible homage to how the first movie starts. And Acacius is the general of Rome. He's leading the army into the invasion. What got me interested in the movie are such big and obvious things. One being Ridley Scott, and two being the first movie. I saw the first movie multiple times in the movie theater when it was released in 2000, wasn't it? And I grew up watching Ridley's movies, and so many. He might be the only director that I can say has multiple films in my top 10, and I'd be in anything under his lens. What makes the original so memorable, and the reason behind it having such major impact, I think, is that it's classic Hollywood cinema, but with really emotionally rich characters, performances, and storytelling. And there's something very, very grand in scope, elegant, sophisticated, bloody, sexy. It's all the things that really sort of like fill in the word epic. There are so many important ways to thread this sequel to its original source. And the best way to do that, I think, is with Lucilla's character and her son, Lucius. And Acacius really serves Lucilla first, and the Roman Empire second. He's a soldier, not a politician, as he states often in the movie. And so he knows who to honor. and to protect that with his life. There are so many reasons behind wanting to be in this movie, and one of them is Paul Mescal. I think as this younger generation of actors emerges, I would definitely make him the lead of my movie. It's an incredible challenge to sort of step into a role like Lucius because of how memorable the first movie is. And if there's anybody that could do it, it's Paul. And I think that what he brings to it is incredible talent, an incredible athleticism, and he's a babe. Those are the only three things you need. Connie Nielsen, to me, is iconic in the role of Lucilla in the first movie, and if I'm being honest, totally my favorite character. I find her to be the most complex, and I've been having conversations with her from the perspective of Acacius, but also just from my personal opinion. I'm like, I think that she's the smartest person in the room, and was so, and has found all of these complex ways to navigate her existence in a world of men, and to survive. And so I just love that, and I feel like, again, there isn't anybody like her who can fill those shoes within this world. Denzel Washington is, untouchable movie star. And, that has to do with an unmatchable talent and an unmatchable star quality, especially for my generation, or the kinds of big-time talent that you grow up watching in the cinema. The star power is incomparable, in my opinion, and held up by the fact that he's an unbelievable actor. And on film, on stage, in front of the camera and behind the camera. I find Ridley to be the hardest working man in Hollywood, and the most direct, challenging, charming. I think that he is this incredible contradiction of having such specificity in terms of what the visual setup is, and yet he delights utterly at the spontaneity that an actor will come up with, something that he would never have thought of himself, and absolutely depends on in a way that you wouldn't expect, because it has to be such a controlled environment to be as big as it is, and yet somehow he finds a way to keep it completely organic and spontaneous. In movies like this one, I think that the important departments of costume design, hair and makeup tell as much of the story as do the words on the page and the performances of the actors. I wouldn't have a character if it weren't for what I was wearing and how it looked. It is the best I've ever looked. It's just like the highest talent out there, and yet still giving the space to collaborate and to kind of fit the design to each individual character. I'm so grateful to have gotten to experience this, because I've, up to now, for most of Ridley's career, have experienced it as a spectator, and have always just like eyes wide open, dazzled by so much of it, and to get to be practically part of the experience of making one of his movies is really something I didn't expect to happen. And also for it to live up to the expectation in the way that it did. I think location is everything, especially when it comes to telling a story. And if you can have the real thing, it really makes a difference, or at least the kind of area in the world that Malta provides as far as the sets of Gladiator are concerned, the size of this Colosseum. I've been on some major sets, and I've not been on a set like this one. I didn't think I could see something bigger than some of the things that I've seen, and this is definitely the biggest.
I play Emperor Geta, who is a sadistic, ruthless emperor. He rules Rome alongside his fraternal twin, Emperor Caracalla, played by the brilliant Fred Hechinger, who is as sadistic and unpleasant as his brother. So they're ruling the roost together in a pretty unsavory way. It's rare that cinema can hit that sweet spot in the way that the first film did, and it was something that we were all very aware of on this film, the fact that there was such a legacy to follow up on, and it was one that we took pretty seriously as well, very seriously. What does it mean to me to be a part of this story? It means a lot. I think I grew up watching the films of Sir Ridley Scott, and the first film was definitely a film that I get misty-eyed over. So to be a part of this world and to venture into this kind of this nostalgic endeavour with Ridley was an extraordinary experience. Emperor Geta is motivated by neuroses, fear of losing power, greed, all traits in leaders that are pretty deplorable, and he is one of those characters that is full of insecurity, lacks integrity, but has an enormous amount of power, which is a dangerous, dangerous combination. The dynamic between Geta and Caracalla is pretty fraught. I think there's a lot of competition and a lot of stress and disappointment, codependence, and fear, and the fact that they are mutually kind of beholden and need each other in this kind of extraordinary situation that they're in. They're totally unqualified and adolescent and distrusting of everyone around them, and I think that it's a very interesting kind of dynamic to play, and I was very lucky in the scene partner I had in Fred. He's an extraordinary actor and brilliant person. Working with Paul was fantastic. He was so committed straight from the off. It was very clear that he wasn't there to mess around at all, but also not to take it too seriously. He was putting in the work for months with stunt training and was totally committed, and it was very inspiring just watching his level of dedication, his leadership. He leads this film extraordinarily well. I can't wait for people to see him. What was it like working with Denzel Washington? Well, it's not every day that you see an actor in that echelon at work. I've been a fan of his since I was a kid. I grew up watching his films, and the prospect of sharing a frame with him was pretty crazy. And he was consummate, professional, listened, had ideas. He's Denzel Washington, so you say that he's a good actor feels like banal. Connie Nielsen brought a very valuable thing amongst all of this madness, which was experience. None of us had been through this experience before, and Connie brilliantly played Lucilla in the first film, so she was able to kind of be a little bit of a mast in the storm that we found ourselves in. She gave us some perspective, some guidance, and and took us on a boat. I was very looking forward to meet Pedro on this film. I was a fan of his and have been for a while. He is heavenly. He's a very funny man. He's very committed, he's very talented, and him and Paul had these kind of very heroic action sequences that they were both committed to. What was it like working with Sir Ridley Scott? It was pretty extraordinary. I grew up watching his films. The range of his filmography is incredible. There's such range in his work, and his ability to kind of create these worlds, these diverse worlds, and take you on a journey with him is pretty extraordinary. There's an energy on a Ridley Scott set that is fascinating, it's thrilling, it's unnerving, and unique. The size and scope of Gladiator 2 is pretty difficult to put into words. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think I'll see anything like it again. We had 25,000 extras, kind of a horde of horses and stunt performers, set builds like you've never seen before, and some fight sequences that kind of boggle the mind. It's a scale that demands to be seen in a theatre. It demands to be seen with people, and I can't wait for people to see it. It's rare that you get to go to a place like Malta that has this world built there that is championed by a very seasoned and brilliant director and visionary director, with a cast as exciting, fresh, but also experienced as this, with Denzel Washington, Paul Mescal, Fred Hechinger, Connie Nielsen. They were extraordinary scene partners and wonderful people to spend time with. It doesn't always happen like that. So it's an experience that's changed me as a person, I think, to kind of have a look at it and to bear witness to something as just the scale of it. You can't really put into words.
They're both like wicked, but also I think very emotionally vulnerable and needy at the same time. And they both like live for each other and to destroy one another. And so I was really interested in building that with Joe. Like, I felt like we wanted to be independent, but we also are completely a duo. Joseph Quinn is a beautiful actor. He's just remarkably present and deep and inspired. When Joe and I were working on the scenes, it felt like we were trying to hold some empire together. You know, we really thought about this, at first at least, as a double act. So working with him was just a great pleasure. He's playing a really complicated, wretched, scary, strange, funny, beautiful person. And he's playing that person with full commitment at all times. These brothers are weird mirrors. They're completely different, but they're always surveilling what the other one is doing. So there's a constant sense of competition, but also love and need for being taken care of. Filming this was like a gladiatorial arena. The way the camera crew is working is like that of warring gladiators. You have 8 cameras that are competing for the shots, and they're trying to make sure they're not in each other's frames, and they're hiding in the masses of people with cloaks on and cameras behind them to try and get the right shot. And you realize it's like the cameras are attacking one another. The entire thing is this full-on war of what is the most exciting thing, what is the biggest, most convincing, insane thing that could happen on screen right now. It's an incredible cast. It's an extraordinary group. What Denzel does in this movie is masterful. You're seeing an artist who always operates at the highest caliber, who never does not entertain and never does not show you truth. They built the Colosseum. They built it in the same place that they built it the first time, except 25% larger.
My name is Lior Raz. I'm playing Viggo, and on Gladiator II, to work with Ridley, it's a dream come true. Doesn't matter what is the role, and yeah, it's It was an amazing project, and the people are amazing, very, very professional, huge production. The Maltese production was amazing, and all the other producers. Listen, it's to come and to be part of I think one of the biggest movies ever done. Viggo is the trainer of gladiators in the farm of Macrinus, played by Denzel Washington. So I'm training them, and I'm taking them to the fights and talking about what is it to be a gladiator and escorting them all the way. And this is Viggo. He's a very tough guy. He was a gladiator himself. I think more important than good actor is to have a good personality. And I think Paul has them both. He's an amazing actor and he has a great personality. I felt at home with him, so it was really, really great, and I love his work. I've seen the movies that he was in and the TV shows, and he was really, really good there, and he was amazing here, and he's a good guy. I work with a legend, so everything that he's doing and everything that he's saying and how he behave on set and how he deal with all those cameras that he's putting on in every scene, like 8 cameras in a scene, first time in my life that I've seen it, and how he control this huge set. It's a masterclass of directing and leading and commanding, and just to see him was an inspiration for me, and also it's a huge honor to be working with this amazing director, one of the best directors in the world. I think every day when I came to set, I was amazed from the details and how huge it is and how much effort they put in every single props that you see. I'm telling you, it's one of the biggest films that I was in, and to see that and to see everything, it's like to go back to the Roman Empire. So for me to see it with the wardrobe and the art and the design, it was, and how huge it is. Denzel is one of the best actors in the world, you know. So just to watch him doing what he's doing, even if I'm just standing on the side and to see the process that he's doing with his character is amazing. I think to watch Ridley working, for me, was the best thing that happened to me on this set, to see how he creates a movie from a script and how he control everything and how he very open-minded to his actors, how he work with his actors, and he's just like a maestro who have this huge orchestra, and he knows exactly what everyone is doing in every second.
My name is Alexander Karim. I play Ravi in Gladiator II. I think that especially if you're from my generation, the original film had an extreme impact on your life. And obviously then hearing that Ridley's going to do it, knowing that he's going to revisit the story, and I'd heard obviously that he'd been, thinking about it for so many years. And so it's just a beautiful opportunity to be part of something historical. Well, I am sort of Lucius's friend and his ally in trying to fulfill his destiny. I realize along the way that there's more to this Lucius character than meets the eye. And I also realize that he has a history here. And I sort of try to get him to see more of the history, see more of who Maximus was and what happened 20 years earlier. And just once he's on his mission, once he knows what his mission is, I'm his ally, trying to help him see it through. Paul it's unbelievable when you see someone, because he's much younger than I am, but you see someone who has this enormous responsibility of carrying this whole film on his shoulders, and he does it. You can tell that he's ultra prepared, obviously, but he does it with ease and with grace. The character needs to be someone who has that real broad palette of emotions, and the ultra strong and the strength of Lucius, the physicality of Lucius. But he also has to draw you in as someone you feel for, because he's, at the end of the day, it's a little kid who got abandoned by his parents, in his mind.